Hi, welcome to the channel to Irrational. I'm Pranay Sharma, and in this video we are going to discuss the detailed solutions of CM1 paper B conducted by IFoA Institute in September 2024. We are going to solve the complete solutions, but if you want the solution sheet, I will leave a number below in the description where you should WhatsApp or Telegram your email ID and ask for CM1 solutions. We are going to email you the same. Without any more delay, let's get started. Question number 1. An insurance company uses a multiple decrement table to value a cohort of health insurance business. The independent rate of mortality and forces of sickness are given in the worksheet question 1 base. Derive the multiple decrement table for this cohort using the template provided. So here in question number 1 base, they have given you QX, that is independent probability of death, and we have force of sickness. We are going to use these and make the multiple decrement. So here question 1 part 1. So we are going to use the force of sickness and we'll require force of death, or I'll write it as mu xd. So mu xd would be equal to minus log of 1 minus qx given here. Then using that we'll create APX. APX is going to be equal to EXP in bracket minus of mu xd minus this sigma x given. Then using that we can create our multiple decrement probabilities, that is dependent probabilities. So is equal to mu xd upon bracket mu xd plus mu xs into 1 minus APX. This is our formula. And for the AQXS, the numerator will just take the force of sickness. Otherwise, the formula is exactly same. Here equal to first force of sickness divided by in bracket force of death plus force of sickness bracket close into 1 minus APX. This becomes the dependent probability of surrender. Now we can complete these. Let's go to part 2. The insurance company now wants to make the following adjustment to the assumptions underlying the multiple decrement table. Increase the force of mortality to 110% of the current force and increase the independent rate of sickness to 105% of the current independent rate. So the force of mortality is supposed to be increased. So mu xd is supposed to be increased by 110%, and here independent rate is supposed to be increased to 105%. And derive the new multiple decrement table following these adjustments. So in part 2 again they have just given us the QX and force of sickness. We will require the force of mortality for death. This is the old value. And we will require also QX for surrender. That is also old value. So this is going to be 1 minus EXP minus this force of sickness. These are both the old values. Now we have to use them to create the new values. So say mu xd new, and I will require qxs new. So mu xd we have 110% of the old one, so 1.1 into the old mu xd, and here we have 105%, so 1.05 into the old QXS. To calculate the dependent probabilities, we will require the force of sickness, so I'll call it as mu xs new minus log 1 minus QXS. This becomes force of sickness. Using that, we'll again calculate APX, AQXD and AQXS. These are the values that we need to calculate. So APX will be equal to EXP in bracket minus of mu XT minus mu XS. AQXT will be equal to the force of mortality divided by in bracket force of mortality plus force of sickness multiplied by 1 minus APX. Same thing we'll do it here, force of sickness divided by in bracket force of mortality plus force of sickness into bracket 1 minus APX. Of course, you can also take 1 minus of APX minus AQXD. Okay, that is also how you can solve the last column, right? So AQXS you could have also written it as equal to 1 minus APX minus AQXD. That will give you exactly the same answers. You can see exactly the same answers. Let's go to question number 2. Question number 2. A life insurance company issues a 25-year term assurance policy to a life age 32 exact. The worksheet question 2 base gives the details of the premiums charged and the benefit payable as well as the reserving basis used. Calculate the gross premium prospective reserves at the end of each policy year, that is TV Pro, and the gross premium retrospective reserve at the end of each policy year, that is TV Retro. If I just assume that we have only sum assured and premium, no expenses, no bonuses, then I'll just make the formula here so that we understand what we are trying to make. This is the formula that we'll require for a prospective reserves. If we talk about expenses, you can subtract the recurring expenses from the premium and add the claim expenses in the sum assured. For retrospective, this is how we make the formula. Again, you can subtract the recurring expenses from the premium and you can add the claim expenses to the sum assured. Otherwise, the formula is pretty simple. If you observe, the annuity due factor for prospective and for the retrospective are completely different. Similarly, the term assurance factor for prospective and for retrospective are also very different. So we are going to make them separately and then calculate their reserves. So the information given to us, policy information, portfolio of 25-year term assurance, starting age 32, premium is 5,000 and 2.5 million seems to be the sum assured. The policy ceases on the payment of the benefit. Here we have the reserving assumptions. Mortality is, here table is given. Then commission is 2% of all premiums, including the premium in the first year. Expense is 1,000 per annum at the start of each year, including the first year. And the risk discount rate is 5.75%. So first let's make the prospective reserves using the mortality given here. So I'll require QX and PX. These are the two values that I'll require. I'll also require rate of interest, that was 5.75%. Using that, I'll calculate the discounting factor for 1 year, that is V. So 1 plus rate of interest raised to minus 1. That gives me the discounting factor for 1 year. And QX say is equal to, we'll go to the base sheet. They have given you QX. We'll start with age 32. And PX will be 1 minus QX. Using this, we will be creating the annuity due factor and term assurance factor. This is just for the prospective reserve. For retrospective, we'll have to calculate those again. So for annuity due factor, we'll go from the bottom. If you want, you can make another column remaining years. So I would like a policy year 0 as well, because I would like the age 30 to be at the policy year 0, so that when I make this reserve, these become at time 0, time 1, time 2 and so on. So I'll just insert, shift cell down, okay, and I'll just put a 0 here. That's fine. So this is for time 0, this is for time 1 and so on. So remaining years, I'll have 25, 24 and so on. This is not required, this is just for reference. So you can remove this if you want to. So we say when 0 years are remaining, the annuity due factor is just going to be 0. For time 1, we will just have 1, because it is payment at the beginning of the year. Then for time 2, we are calculating age 55 2. That is what we are trying to create. So I'll have 1 plus V, I'll fix it, into P55 multiplied by the bottom value. Then I will drag this up. This will give me the annuity due factors for each of these years. Drag this up. So what I am getting here is age 32 25, then 33 24, then 34 23. These are the annuity due factors that I am getting. This was 55 2. This is 56 1. For term assurance, we'll start with 0. We'll say is equals to, I have payment at the end of the first year, I'll fix it, into QX, then plus, again V, fix it, into P, and then into the bottom value. This is how we create the term assurance factor. If you want an endowment factor, all you have to do is, here you should have 1. That's it. Now I can drag it up and it will create the term assurance factor for each one of them. Prospective reserve, we'll say, is our sum assured into the term assurance factor minus the premium, that is 5,000, out of which we will remove the commission of 2%, so 0.98, and we'll subtract 1,000 expense, multiply it with the annuity due factor, enter, and this gives me the prospective reserves. For calculating retrospective reserve, it would be easier if we calculate the discounting factor and TPX. These two will be important to calculate the A due 32T and term assurance starting from age 32 and going for T years. These are the two values that we will require for calculating retrospective reserve. Discounting factor, we'll just say the discounting factor for 1 year, fix it, raised to the policy year. This becomes the discounting factor. Then probability of survival till time T, so starting 1, this is equals to the previous value multiplied by probability of surviving the first year. And I can drag this down till the end. A due 32 1, we are going to start with 1. We'll say there's only 1 year. Then when it comes to the second year, we'll say is equals to the previous value, that is 1, plus discounting factor for 1 year multiplied by probability that the person survives 1 year. This way, when I drag it down, it will take these values and add up these new terms and we'll get the A due 32T. For term assurance, it's going to be payment at the end of the first year multiplied by probability that the person does not survive the first year. For the second year, we'll say above value plus discounting factor of 2 years multiplied by probability that the person survived the first year and died in the second year. This is how we will be creating term assurance factor. We can complete this, and now using that we will be creating a retrospective reserves. So to calculate retrospective reserve, bracket, another bracket, we have premium of 5000 multiplied by 0.98 because we have to subtract the commission and then subtract the expenses. This we will multiply by the annuity due factor, then subtract the sum assured, that is 2.5 million, multiplied with the term assurance factor, bracket close, and then divide by V raised to n, another divide by the TPX. This is how we will create the retrospective reserves. In such calculations, you will always see that retrospective we have some reserves here, and if you go up you will get 0. But here in prospective you are starting from 0 from bottom here, and if you go up you will have certain reserves here. But we are not concerned with these values. This top value or the bottom value, you can remove them, that is fine. We are concerned about the reserves that are from time 1 to time 24. You can see the reserves are slightly different, and that is fine. So it says discuss briefly why the prospective and the retrospective reserves are not equal for this policy. For a without profit policy, the prospective and the retrospective reserves are same if the two following conditions are met. First is the reserving basis for both the methods should be same. That was true here. Then B, the premium used to calculate the reserves should be calculated using the same basis as the reserves. This we did not know. So we'll say here we are certain that the reserving basis for both methods are same. Hence the basis at which the premium was calculated must not be same. Let's see the next question. Question 3. The worksheet question 3 base contains a mortality table that has a select period of 5 years. Let's see. So this mortality table, they have given Q very similar to AM92 table, but the difference is we have select period for 5 years. First, calculate A part 3P30. P30 into P31 into P32, and all of them are going to be ultimate value. B part 15Q35 plus 2. So we'll be first calculating 1 minus 15P select 35 plus 2. That would be 1 minus, first value would be P select 35 plus 2, and multiply it with P select 35 plus 3, P select 35 plus 4, and after that we will have ultimate. So I'll be multiplying P40, P41 and so on till my last, this is 37 plus 15, 52. So we are going, last value will be P51 because we are going till age 52. All of these are ultimate. So let's go solve this. In part 1, they have given us area for P values. Let's make that, we'll say is equals to 1 minus Q, and we will complete the table with it. For 1A, we'll have equal to P30 ultimate into 31 into 32. For 1B, we'll have equal to 1 minus, first value that we'll have is 35 plus 2 for, that is age 37, that is selects plus 2. then multiplied by next will be this, that is age 38, select plus 3 into this. From age 40 we will have ultimate, so instead of writing this we'll say prod, that is product, and we'll multiply from 40 to 51. So these are the desired probabilities. We require ADU select 30, 10 and A 30 plus 2, 5. So let's do ADU select 30, 10 first. Again we have the blank PX. Just say this is equals to, I'll go here. We have already calculated in part 1. So all I need to do is use that. And for part 2A, because the ages are completely different, I will start everything fresh for both of them. So we will require Q select 30 plus T. We'll require P select 30 plus T, and later on we'll require TP select 30. These are the values that I'll require to create the annuity factor. Let's start the time with 0, 1 and we'll go till time 10. Age 32, 40 and QX Q30. I want Q select 30. Because we have P values available here, let's take the P values first. Says equals to, want P select 30. So P select 30. But for 31 I want select plus 1. So select plus 1 column for age 31. For 32 it will become select plus 2. So age 32. For 33 it will be select plus 3. Age 33. For 34 select plus 4, age 34, and from 35 we have ultimate. So from 35 ultimate, go down till the end. Now for this we actually don't require Q, because for annuity due we don't require Q. We'll require that later on for the assurance. So I just deleted that column. So for TP30, I'll start with 1. So is equals to the previous value multiplied by the first year probability of survival, and we drag it down. We'll require the discounting factor. You can write it as V raised to T. So the rate of interest must be given here using an effective rate of interest of 5% per annum. Write it here, 5%. This equals to bracket 1 plus the rate of interest is 5%. Fix it, raised to minus the time. This is the discounting factor. Expected present value of annuity is equal to discounting factor into the probability of survival. Drag it down and then I will add them up. This is my final answer. I'll not write this 2A here, I'll write it at the end for answer. Then 2B, I will require completely different table because age is completely different. So we are going for 5 years. And the age is select 30 plus 2, going for 5 years. So we are starting with age 32. Here we will require QX, so I'll do it at the end. First we'll have P select 30 plus 2 plus T. This is what we will require. Then you can say TP select 30 plus 2, and I will also require Q select 30 plus 2 plus t. So these are the probabilities that I'll require. These, because we are talking about the same select value from age 32, I can take this value, t select 30 plus t. These values will be same. So from age 32 to 37, I have taken the values directly from here. Then probability of survival will start with 1, which is equals to the previous value into probability of the survival of first year. Then Q is just 1 minus P. We will require the discounting factor. You can directly take it from here, no problem. And because we have to calculate the endowment value, so this is expected present value of death benefit, and we'll require expected present value of survival benefit. So for the expected present value of death benefit, we'll say discounting factor into probability of surviving the previous year and dying in the first year. And we can drag it down. For the expected present value of survival benefit, discounting for 5 years if the person survived for 5 years. And then finally, I'll write the answers here. 2a is equal to this and 2b is equal to, I'll have to add up these values. So if you want, you can take sum here, bracket close, plus this value. This becomes the endowment assurance value. Let's go to question number 4. So the last question, a life insurance company issues a 4-year joint life term assurance to 2 lives, a man currently age 44 exact and the woman currently age 46 exact. The premiums charged and the benefits payable under the policy are set out in the worksheet question 4 base, together with the profit test basis used by the company to price the product. So first is calculate for each month of the policy the probability per policy in force at the outset the both policy holders survives at the start of the month. So because they have said here per policy in force at the outset, what we want is TPXY. This is what we want. Then B part, the probability per policy holder in force at the start of the month that a death benefit is paid in that month. So we want per policy in force at the start of the month. That means we are calculating probability for that month only, that the death benefit is paid. Death benefit will be paid if one of those policyholder dies or both dies. All we'll take is that both of them did not survive that month. So it would be 1 minus PXPY for those months. Let's calculate that. So for part 1, we are only worried about the mortality. So they are saying use the mortality rates in the table for both men and women. So because they have already given us the rates per monthly, we don't have to worry too much about whether it is month or year. We can solve it as we would for years. So the starting age was 44 and 46. Let's complete this. Then we'll take their Q values from the table itself. Q44 and for QY 46. I will then calculate PX, PY, then TPX, TPY. Then what we want is TPXY. This is what we desire. And for the second part, So Px simply 1 minus Qx, same thing Py 1 minus Qy, Tpx, let's complete this, then Tpx 1, this is equals to the previous value into Px for the first value, and same thing we'll do with Qx here, sorry, Tpy, we'll do the same thing with Tpy, and then Tpxy will be equal to Tpx into Tpy. So for probability of death benefit paid in that month, which is equals to 1 minus Px into Py, that will give me probability that one person might die in that month. Now for part 2, calculate the gross annual premium. So we don't know the premium, we are going to use goal-seek to find it. So for rest of the information, let's go to the base. In question number 4 base, we have 3-year joint life term policy, then the policyholder's age 44-46, that's fine, and sum assured is 125,000 payable at the end of the month of the first death. Level premiums are payable monthly in advance throughout the term, ceasing on the first death. All benefits, entitlement and the premium payments cease on the payment of benefit. That is fine. Mortality we are done with. Then initial commission 25% of the first year's premium. We are writing monthly, but we want first year's premium incurred at the start of the policy. Then renewal commission is 2% of the monthly premium at start of the second policy year. We'll have to take care of that as well. And expenses 10 per month at the start of each month. Claim expenses 600. So we have two different rates of interest. That means we will have to solve this question using profit testing method only. Premiums are set such that the expected present value of the profit is set at 90% of the initial commission. Okay. So let's go to our sheet. So we'll take these probabilities directly from what we have calculated in part 1. This is probability of joint life survival to the start of the month. And this is probability of first death in that month. That is this. We will start making the columns. So let's write down the two rates of interest, 4% and 6.25%. So 4% and 6.25% here. Premium we are going to assume, and we are going to use goal-seek later on. Find the exact value. So I'll assume it to be 1000 equal to this value. Fix it, run it. Let's just take a pause. I just realized later while I was editing the video that in question here they have written 4-year joint life term assurance, and in here they have written 3 years joint life term assurance policy. So what I think is, even if you solve it for 4 years or if you solve it for 3 years, they will give you correct because it's their mistake. So I have solved it by taking 36 months. You can solve it using 48 months as well. Let's get back to the question. So how many years? We are supposed to go only for 36 months because the policy is only for 3 years. So remove the others. Expenses, we add -10. I will take it as negative cash flow. Then the commission, for the first year we have commission at time 0, so minus 25% of first year's premium, so 12 into the premium that we'll get here. That becomes, right now 3000, it will change later on. And the renewal commission starts from time 13, that is month 13, right? because they said 2% of the monthly premium from the start of the second policy year. So time 13 minus 0.02 into the premium till the end. Then interest, because I have taken the positive and negative cash flows, now I can just add them up, multiply by the rate of interest. The death cost minus 125,000 multiplied by the probability of dying in that month. That is the death cost. And claim expense was how much? Claim expense was 600 minus 600 into probability of dying in that month. That's death cost and claim expense. Then profit vector, I'll just add them up because these are all the cash flows. This gives me the profit vector. Profit signature will be equal to profit vector into the probability of survival, T minus 1 APX. That would be this. And discounting factor, bracket 1 plus rate of interest, fix it, raised to minus. So we have year here and we have month. So I'll have to put a bracket, the month divided by 12, because the rate is given in annual terms. Discounting factor, and NPV will be profit signature into the discounting factor. Now the NPV that we want, I'll add them up. That is this is 27027.9. They have specifically said that the expected present value of profit is set at 90% of the initial commission. Okay, so it should be 90% of this initial commission. So to set that, I will create a net here. So net value will be equal to 90% negative value, that is fine. So I will add up NPV. So I would want this NPV to be 90% of the initial commission. So then this value net will become 0. So I want this value to be 0 by changing the premium. We'll go to data, what if analysis, seek. This value must be 0 by changing cell, this premium. Okay, so we get 116.412. Let's go to part 3. The company is proposing to offer another version of this policy where the death benefit is payable at the end of the year rather than the end of the month of the first death. Discuss without performing any calculations how the gross premium would change under this proposal. We'll say as the benefit is paid at the end of the year instead of end of the month, the discounting on the benefit and the claim expense payments will increase and overall expected present value of the benefit will decrease. If there is no change in the premium payment, the expected present value of the profit will increase. To keep the expected present value of profit in the same proportion to the initial commission as mentioned in the question, the gross premium will decrease. So that ends our paper here. Overall, the paper was fairly easy, but it was definitely very tricky. So if you did not observe the small details that they had mentioned, you may make a lot of mistakes, especially in the last question where probability of death was asked for that month only, and also the commission part was a little bit tricky. Otherwise, the first 3 questions were fairly straightforward. So depending on how many people do not make the mistake, the passing mark might rise up. But I am expecting the passing mark to be somewhere around 55 to 57 because I think a lot of students might make mistake in the profit testing question here. If the video was helpful, do like and share the video. To get more actual science related videos, do subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.